The views and opinions expressed today on Black Focus Radio are not the views and opinions of the station, its management, or its advertisers. Now, let's get ready to focus on our issues, our solutions, using our voices on Black Focus Radio.
Welcome to Black Focus, the show designed with our community in mind, where we focus on our issues, developing our solutions, using our voices. Central Arkansas, surrounding areas, and the nation. Get ready. Black Focus starts right now. Phone lines open at 855-525-5683. So here's your host, David W. Coleman. It's Monday, and that means it's time for another edition of Black Focus Radio. Our issues, our solutions, our voices on joynetradio.com. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe when you go out to Facebook and Instagram. And you can view the show, if you're listening via radio, view the show on YouTube. And while you're out there, like, share, and subscribe. I also want you to support our sponsors, joynetradio.com and ribrub.com. That's RIBBRUBB.com. You know, we like to say bake it, grill it, smoke it. Oh, yeah. Okay, come on, give me your hand and let me take you down through barbecue land. That's what we do at ribrub.com. Also, I want you to join me as I am a one-man band trying to get rid of the N-word. Okay? Just don't say it. Don't say it. There's no reason to impart that negativity on black people. We've got enough going on in our community. That word needs to go. And it is up to you to get rid of it. Okay? So get rid of it. Just don't say it. All right. So let me tell you what we've got on the agenda today. We're going to talk a little bit about Trey Reed. We're going to intersperse that. We certainly got to talk more about Charlie Kirk and all of the things that are going on today. There was a Charlie Kirk Day that was voted on last week, and there were a lot of Democrats who decided to vote on it. Okay? So y'all voting for racists now. All right? And also, by the way, they're still trying to normalize Charlie Kirk's racism. So we're going to talk a lot about that today as well. If we get an opportunity, we're going to squeeze in more stuff about the pedophile in chief, because it's pretty clear he's involved. This by far is the worst cover-up I've ever seen. Okay? And it is a cover-up. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Okay, so that's what's on the agenda. But before we do anything, we're going to do Black Facts. So let's do that right now.
Dynamic Black Facts. Our culture, our history, our people.
Okay, so today's Black Fact is going to be a little different. You know, I usually specifically target black issues, black people, but this Black Fact affects us all. Okay? Today's Black Fact is going to be about the First Amendment. And the reason this is important, because there has been a lot of things going on this last week that we need to address. And it surrounds the First Amendment. So let me start off by giving you an overview of what the First Amendment is. The First Amendment protects several fundamental rights by preventing the government from infringing on them. Specifically, it prohibits laws that establish a religion, impede the free exercise of religion, abridge freedom of speech or the press, prevent peaceful assembly, or restrict the right to petition the government. Adopted in 1791 as part of the Bill of Rights, its protections were later extended to state governments through the 14th Amendment. Okay? Now, the key protections of the First Amendment. Freedom of religion. It prevents the government from establishing a national religion, the Establishment Clause, or interfering with individuals' religious practices, the Free Exercise Clause. Y'all get that, right? So there are people right now in our government who are trying to establish Christianity as a national religion. The First Amendment says you can't do this. Okay? But they're trying. This is why you need to understand, and that's why this is so important. Freedom of speech. protects the right to express oneself without government censorship. Wow, we've been hearing a lot about that this week, haven't we? Freedom of the press safeguards the ability of the media to publish information and opinions. Freedom of assembly guarantees the right to gather peacefully. Right to petition upholds the right of people to ask the government for solutions to grievances. Here's how it works. Government action. The First Amendment primarily restricts government actions that threaten these freedoms, not actions by private individuals or organizations. The Supreme Court interpretation. The Supreme Court plays a vital role in interpreting the scope and the limits of these rights through its rulings on various cases. Application to states. Although the amendment explicitly refers to Congress, the Supreme Court has interpreted the Due Process Clause of the 14th Amendment to apply these First Amendment protections to state governments as well. Now, I know what you're saying. You said, Dave, usually when you have black facts, you're talking about black issues. I am. Because this particular amendment is probably and was probably the most powerful for Martin, for Malcolm, for Medgar, for Fred, for Kwame, for all of those people who fought for civil rights so you can sit where you are today. They used the First Amendment, the right to peacefully assemble. Remember, they assembled and they had dogs sicked on them. They were attacked on the Edmund Pettus Bridge. Freedom of religion. Many of them broke off from the Southern Baptist Convention because the Southern Baptist Convention was steeped in bigotry and racism. And I shouldn't say was, it still is. Yeah. That freedom of religion, or I should say the freedom of religion that you deal with on a regular basis, you get a chance to worship the way you feel. You know, in the African American community, let's see, there's Kojic, there's AME Zion, there's CME, let's see, there's Baptist, there's Pentecostal. There are all kinds of religions. In fact, did I hear there were like over 30,000 different religions across the country, across the world? Many of them are practiced right here. Mormonism, as a matter of fact, the guy who shot Charlie Kirk was a Mormon. Islam. Buddhism, all of those religions are practiced here, and many others are practiced here, right here in America. Okay? You have the right to do that. You have also the right to speak. Because if it wasn't for your right to speak, we wouldn't be here. Remember, I talked about Mary Turner last week. You know, there was a time in this country where black people couldn't speak certain ways to white people. Emmett Till was killed because someone lied and said he whistled at a white woman. Mary Turner, she had a right to speak as well. She wanted to speak because her husband had been murdered by a gang. Remember, there were a time in America where black people could not testify against white people, or they could, those rights that freedom that I just read in the First Amendment simply didn't apply to black people. Mary Turner was so angry that she witnessed her husband being murdered, she decided that she was going to petition, use part of the First Amendment, the right to petition. And when she tried to do that, she was viciously murdered. And if you don't remember, Mary Turner was 8 months pregnant. She was hung by her feet, doused with gasoline, set afire. Her 8-month-old baby was sliced out of her stomach, fell to the ground, and was stomped to death by white people. That was Mary Turner. And after they did that, they riddled her body with over 100 bullets, because she wanted to use her right to petition the government for a grievance, the murder of her husband. See, the First Amendment has not always applied to us. I'm very partial to the First Amendment. The First Amendment is important to me. When I first started in radio, I thought that I was going to be a disc jockey. I was going to play music and, oh, that's by Marvin Gaye. That's one of the best hits. Mellow sounds designed with you in mind. Yeah, I was ready. But my first job was at a talk radio station. At a talk radio station. And I began to realize, more so than I had ever, up until that time, understand just how important the First Amendment was. Because on that station in Memphis at WHBQ, we had a conservative in the morning, Oliver C. Reed. He was followed by Mark Davis, who was even more conservative. Then but I know we had Bill Atkins, and John DeClue was later on in the evenings. That was the lineup. Bill Atkins was a liberal. John DeClue was an ultra-liberal. They were all on the same station. So I got to learn a lot about talk radio, how to do talk radio, and how to push buttons. So I learned a lot. It was a great, and since then, I've always done talk radio, whether it's sports or news. Okay? So I'm always going to do talk radio. When you listen to this show, you realize that I do my show a lot more professionally than a lot of these people who are just out on the web. And look, God bless you. I'm glad you're able to use your forum to speak your mind, because that's the First Amendment. Whether you're black or white, it applies to us all. So last week, I learned something that bothered me just a little. And what that was I understand that there are people that are trying to get me off the air in Little Rock. This was brought to my attention. And I don't think he minds me telling him this or telling this story, because we talked about it live on air on Friday. There are people who wanted to spend money at Joynet Radio and decided that they would not because they did not like my show. Those people were white. Hello? So what they see it's kind of like what I've been saying about white people all along, is that white people have been boycotting your businesses for decades. The only business that white people really attend are cooking places. If you cooking, they'll come and eat. They'll come and eat your soul food, but they won't support you any other way. They'll come and eat your barbecue. They'll come and eat your fish, but they won't come to your clothing store. They won't come to your grocery store. So they want JC Love, who is the owner of Joynet Radio, to pull my show. Now, even if JC pulls my show, that's not going to stop me from using YouTube and any of the other social media platforms to get my message out. But what I want to do, because by the way, JC and this show has a First Amendment right to broadcast. And I want to applaud JC Love for standing up, not just for me and Black Focus Radio, but for the First Amendment. Now, I'm going to tell you, just like I told JC, I don't want to be a hindrance of anyone making money. So if it affects you that much, then you're more than welcome to pull the show. But see, JC is a man of principle. And see, this is what they're trying to do to us, is trying to limit our speech. They don't want us to be able to talk to one another. They don't want us to be able to communicate to one another. This is why it is so important that we as a black community support black radio. And I'm not talking about stations that play black music, because if you did your research, the majority of those stations that are playing black music are not black owned. And by the way, the music that they are playing in most cases is gangster rap and hip hop. It's mind-bending programming music to affect black people. We've talked about that a lot on this show. I don't listen to hip hop. I don't listen to gangster rap. There is nothing efficacious for me and really anyone else who listens to that. They want you to think it's okay to gangbang. There are some cities, I got news from Little Rock a week ago, that at a football game, people decided to start shooting in North Little Rock. That's what they want you to do. You see, and they fill your mind with these types of things so you will do those things. Okay? So what do we have to do here? We've got to support the First Amendment, which is part of the Constitution of the United States. But more than anything else, we've got to support one another. We've got to support black media. You know, you hear me talk about Roland Martin. I'm going to be totally honest with you. Charlemagne, that show, I don't know the name of it, but I listen to it every now and then. You know, the reason I listen, because I want to hear what people say. Believe it or not, I used to listen to Rush Limbaugh. I would listen to Rush Limbaugh. And I remember a friend being in a car with me and I was listening to Rush Limbaugh. And she said, "Why are you listening to that stuff?" Well, my argument is that you have to know what the enemy is doing in order to counter the enemy. So I wanted to hear what the right wingers are saying. And also, I wanted to hear the craft. Okay? I'm talking about the craft, the art of doing talk radio. Because the First Amendment is so beautiful. As flawed as many of those signers of the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution, as flawed as they were, many of them were racist. Many of them were rapists, child predators. No, I know y'all don't want to hear this, but they were. But out of all of that evil, some good came out of it. And although black people were not able to enjoy the fruits of that labor until 1863, when the Emancipation Proclamation was made or signed, we still live today and we still are able to enjoy the fruits of that document. The First Amendment is wonderful. I support the First Amendment. Just like I support what Charlie Kirk had to say. We're going to talk about that in the next segment. I support what he had to say. I don't mean I support it like I'm saying, yeah, he's right. I support it because it is governed by the First Amendment. And the First Amendment has proven to be the most powerful voice that we've ever seen. It gives you voice. It gives you freedom. It gives you the right to worship any way you want. And on that note, that's our Black Fact for today.
Keep listening to Black Focus Radio for more dynamic Black facts, our culture, our history, our people on joynetradio.com.
I sincerely hope you enjoyed that Black Fact because it's important and it's going to become even more important as we move forward in this country. So make sure you understand what the First Amendment is all about. the church you go to, the songs that you sing, the music that you listen to, the books that you read, the speeches that you make are all covered under the First Amendment. And on that note, we're going to take a break. We'll be back in a moment. You're listening to Black Focus Radio, our issues, our solutions, our voices on joynetradio.com.
Hi, I'm David W. Coleman, host of Black Focus Radio and the weekly sports magazine. We here at joynetradio.com would like to thank you for all the love and support you've given us. Our goal is to keep you inspired and informed daily with quality programming from gospel music, news, talk, and sports. Log on to joynetradio.com for the program lineup, and while there, be sure to make a donation. Then download our app and carry us anywhere in the world. Please continue to spread the word about joynetradio.com. And if you are an entrepreneur or have an upcoming event or you'd like to start a show, let the professional writers and producers here at joynetradio.com help you get the word out. Call me at 615-554-0568 for more details. In the meantime, stay informed and inspired daily right here on joynetradio.com. David W. Coleman here for Coleman's Dynamic Rib Rub and Rib Nuts. Go to ribrub.com, that's RIBBRUBB.com right now, and stock up on the best dry marinades for baking, grilling, and smoking your favorite meats. 3 great flavors, hot and spicy, original, and scorching. Try them at your next cookout and you will shout, bake it, grill it, shake it, oh yeah! Only one place to get Coleman's Dynamic products, that's ribrub.com. Easy to order, and I'll ship direct to you or to friends and family anywhere in the United States. While on the site, be sure to check out other great items, especially the rib nuts. Who'd have thunk it? Peanuts sauteed in a barbecue marinade? That's just crazy good. Get them at ribrub.com right now, along with other great recipes. That's ribrub.com. If you don't like my rib rub or rib nuts, I'll give you money back. Do it today. That's Coleman's Dynamic Products at ribrub.com.
Welcome back to Black Focus Radio, our issues, our solutions, our voices. 855-525-5683 is the number. That's how you get in touch with me if you'd like to join the show. We've got a lot of stuff to talk about today. Obviously, the First Amendment is on the agenda. We spent the last segment talking about the First Amendment and its tenets. One of the things that I want to tell you is I support the First Amendment, and I support anyone who uses the First Amendment. As you know, this past week, Jimmy Kimmel, who was a comedian on Late Night, was taken off the air by ABC. Now, we need to be clear on this. 40% of the stations, the ABC stations across the country, if I remember correctly, are owned by Sinclair Broadcasting. And if you know anything about Sinclair Broadcasting is a right-wing organization who spends millions of dollars giving to the right wing and the Republican Party. So as we have come under this new administration has decided that it was going to attack any rights and privileges that we may have, even though the Supreme Court may or may not have ruled against one thing or the other. See, their modus operandi is to throw everything up against the wall. And while you're trying to clean one side of the wall, they are sticking stuff on the other side of the wall. And as you go down the wall, they come behind you and they're throwing more stuff. This is their tactics. So what they want you to do is say, oh, throw your hands up and say, well, they're throwing so much up there, there's nothing we can do. And before you know it, this country has changed. So this president didn't like what Jimmy Kimmel had to say and decided that he would go to ABC and ask them to pull Jimmy Kimmel. And they did. There's been an outcry all across the nation because people are beginning to realize that there is a problem with this administration. Unfortunately, the Republicans in the Senate and the House have not quite figured that out yet, because many of them have made money off the backs of poor people. Many of them are making money. That's why they're not doing anything. That's why they passed the big, beautiful debacle. So why should we be concerned? I'm going to tell you this. And we're going to talk a little bit about Charlie Kirk here in probably the next segment. But I'm going to tell you this. I support what Charlie Kirk had to say. I believe he had the right to say whatever he had to say. I believe Charlie Kirk had the right to say that kids should not get free lunch. I think Charlie Kirk had the right to say that he's concerned about black pilots. He got nervous when he got on a plane and there was a black pilot. I believe that Charlie Kirk had the right to talk about Michelle Obama and Ketanji Brown Jackson. I believe that Charlie Kirk had the right to say that some people will be sacrificed for the Second Amendment. He had the right to say those things. You know why I believe that? It goes back to our black fact of today. It's because of the First Amendment. In fact, I believe that all of these organizations who are anti-black, anti-immigrant, anti-LGBTQ, or whatever they call themselves, have a right to say it. It may not be nice, but they have a right to say it. You know why I have to believe that? Because I believe in the First Amendment. I believe in the Constitution of the United States. And I will tell you right now that although the Constitution of the United States was not originally written for me as a black man, I believe in that document because that document has gotten us where we are today. So Charlie Kirk, skinheads, Grand Dragon of the Ku Klux Klan, Donald J. Trump and his ilk, J.D. Vance, you can say all you want to say. Say all you, because you know what? That's your First Amendment right. That's part of the Constitution of the United States. Here's why I have a problem. You can say what you want to say, but you don't want me to say what I want to say. That goes back to what I was saying earlier about the white businesses in Little Rock trying to get me pulled off of Joynet Radio. You see, they can talk all the noise that they want. It's okay for them because they're white. Now, let me be clear. I've been doing this show on Joynet Radio now for over 8 years. It's been that long. And here's the one thing that I've always said, and I want you white brothers and sisters out there who are listening, who are anti-Black Focus Radio. What I talk about is an empowerment. Unfortunately, a lot of stuff that I have to talk about is steeped in your history, your being white history, your bigotry, your racism. I've said over and over again that if you truly wanted to get rid of racism, it would have been gone a long time ago. I don't try to get rid of racism anymore. I'm not concerned about it unless it affects me specifically. Do I talk about it? Will I fight? Do things? Yes. But hey, am I going to march? Am I going to talk about? No. Racism is a white man's creation. And if you really wanted to get rid of it, you would have already done it. See, the biggest mistake was made is that when they gave reconciliation to the Confederates, they said, oh, you tried to destroy the nation. Oh, we're going to forgive you. We're going to give you reparations for each slave that you lost. So that mentality, oh, by the way, we're going to name airports and statues and military bases after Confederate heroes. You see, what they should have done is what Germany did, that, hey, Nazism, we ain't having none of that nowhere, no time. It's out of here. That's what America should have done, but they didn't. So here we are today, still dealing with that bigotry and racism. And there are people who, and by the way, you should have given us reparations a long time ago. And now that you've got this president in office, they are empowered to think that they're going to turn back the clock. That black people somehow or another is going to go back to the back of the bus. That black people are going to accept redlining. This is how ignorant they are. Because they think that they're superior. Let me ask you a question. Can you name one thing that white people did in the past that moved civilization forward? I'll wait. Not trying to be mean. They are a warring people. They've proven it. And they will kill, rape, pillage, and destroy if the opportunity presents itself. See January 6th. If it doesn't go the way the white man thinks it should go, we're going to destroy it. See the Red Summer. All of those black towns that were destroyed. Because black people were doing their own thing, making their own money. White people weren't. They decided to destroy those black towns. I'm just asking the question here. Are we concerned? You see, I am for the First Amendment, but what I am not going to sit back and deal with is people trying to make Charlie Kirk some type of martyr. They've made a Charlie Kirk Day. In fact, there are people who are losing their jobs. I read a story about a lady at a newspaper. I'm sorry, I can't think of the name, who lost their job because she simply posted what Charlie Kirk said. You see, they're trying to rewrite history right in your face. This is the most, how can you say, or how can you fire someone who posts what your hero said? It's almost like firing me, but you can't fire me because I work for myself. But let's say, for instance, I worked for the NAACP and I posted stuff that Martin Luther King said, or I posted stuff what Malcolm X said, or Medgar Evers, or Fred Hampton, or whomever, and they come and fire me. That's what they're doing here. Because they don't want you to know who Charlie Kirk really was. Charlie Kirk was a bigot. He was a racist. I don't care that the fact that he went on college campuses and debated white kids. I don't care. We in America allowed him to travel around the country and try to infect young people, white mainly, with his bigotry and racism. And to some extent he was successful. To some extent, he got more white males, young white males, to vote for Donald Trump because they were enamored by the words that Charlie Kirk said. For some reason or another, young white males think that they are being left behind. They don't do anything. They don't want anything. Oh, that's right. They want white privilege. That privilege doesn't exist, at least that much anymore. That's what Charlie Kirk did. So when we talk about these things and the sycophants that are Charlie Kirk fans, what's wrong with y'all? And you seem to think that we as black people are going to let you rewrite history. You're trying. That's why you're banning books. You don't want black people to read. I tell people all the time, the most powerful weapon you can have is reading a book. They don't want you to read, brothers and sisters. No, they don't want you to do that. They want you just to shut up and believe whatever they're saying. That's what they want to do. We've got to wake up. We've got to start paying attention. Because Charlie Kirk was no hero. Coming up in the next segment, we're going to talk a little bit about a black guy who got on one of my posts and tried to defend Charlie Kirk. I'm going to read the entire post to you. Okay? I'm going to read the entire post because he doesn't get it. Don't tell me Charlie Kirk was a Christian, because he wasn't a Christian. He wasn't. So now we got Charlie Kirk Memorial and Charlie Kirk Day in the Senate. We're going to talk a little bit about those Democrats, including Hakeem Jeffrey, who voted for the Charlie Kirk Charlie Kirk Day in the Senate and the House. I said last show that I don't feel sorry for what happened to Charlie Kirk. We always say that when someone dies, if they die doing what they believed in, that's a great thing. Should he have been shot? No. But Charlie Kirk died supporting the First Amendment. He died espousing his lies, his treachery to white people. I still hadn't figured out why y'all got mad at black people because a white boy shot Charlie Kirk. And they're still trying to pretend like he was some leftist kid. No. This was a white boy who was in Utah, Mormon Utah, that shot Charlie Kirk. And they're trying, well, he was trans or something. Oh, his boyfriend was trans. Look, y'all can try to rewrite history all you want. And you know what? I really don't care what he was. I go back to the argument that Charlie Kirk died doing what he loved. You know, there are a lot of people who have said, man, I'll die doing this, or man, I could just die doing that. Charlie Kirk got a chance to do that. I don't feel sorry for him. As I said last week, I don't feel sorry for his kids. I don't feel sorry for his wife, because when his wife finally spoke, she started espousing the same crap that he was espousing. And here's the amazing thing about it, is that even the Justice Department is trying to pressure people to make a donation to the Charlie Kirk, Turning Points USA. Excuse me. These people have lost their minds. They really have lost their minds. So what did they do? Charlie Kirk get killed, and the first thing they do, they started sending bomb threats to HBCUs. Black people ain't had nothing to do with that. They were ready to go to war because a white boy shot and killed Charlie Kirk. So see, that tells you just how racist they are. And remember, I told you last week that the governor was upset that the person that shot and killed Charlie Kirk was one of them and not one of those. And made the statement, go back to my wall and read it. The governor. And you're upset because it wasn't a black person, it wasn't a Hispanic person, it wasn't a brown person. It was someone lily white that lived in your state that was a Christian nationalist who was a gun advocate. Hello. This is a sickness. I'm not going to rubber stamp this. I'm not going to let you rewrite his memory. I'm going to use his words, just like, hey, white people all the time try to use Martin Luther King's words. They try that all the time, particularly the right, when they try to push their agenda. Well, Dr. King said, you don't give a damn about Dr. King. See, what they want is a martyr. You see, black people the reason we have a Dr. King, the reason we have a Medgar Evers, the reason we have a Malcolm X, the reason we have a Fred Hampton, and the list goes on and on. The reason we have that is because of your bigotry and your racism. Just imagine, had you did right by black people in the Emancipation Proclamation, had you not had the black codes, had you not had segregation and redlining and gerrymandering, had you not had Jim Crow, we wouldn't be here today. All of this is on you, white people. All of this is on you. And you have the unmitigated gall to try to silence me and others who make their voices and speak truth to power. I've said over and over again that if you don't like what I say, you're more than welcome to come on this show. Now, I've said over and over again as well that when you come on this show, make sure that you have your facts straight. We're not putting up with conspiracy theories. We're not putting up with, well, in my opinion. We all got an opinion, just like we all got buttholes. Okay? So I'm going to say it again, just so you know, that if you doubt or you disagree in something that I've said and it's wrong, call me up. Here's my personal number, 615-554-0568. Call me. You got my email. I'll put you on the show. But we not normalizing racism on this show. And I'm going to speak truth to power as long as there is breath in my body, whether you like it or not. And why are you upset with Charlie Kirk's shootings? Why aren't you upset with all of the stuff that you right-wingers are doing? We're going to talk about that later in the show. We've got to take a break. When we come back, let me find my boy. You know, the guy who was upset with me because of what I said about Charlie Kirk last week. We're going to find all of that and more. You're listening to Black Focus Radio, our issues, our solutions, our voices on JoyNetRadio.com.
Barbecue season is here, and you're still using that 99-cent goop full of chemical derivatives and high fructose corn syrup for your sauce? Stop, please. Get to ribrub.com now and save your next cookout with an array of all-natural rubs and sauces. Start with the Dynamic Rib Dust for seasoning and the Dynamic Rib Rub for flavor, and top off your grilled or smoked masterpiece with Dynamic Rib Juice. Don't forget the Dynamic Pepper Juice for just the right kick for those chicken wings. One other thing, you've got to try the delectably delicious Dynamic Rib Nuts. Can't decide? Order a Dynamic gift box and satisfy all of your cravings. Come on, give me your hand and let me take you to barbecue land at ribrub.com. That's RIBBRUBB.com, and we'll show you how to bake it, grill it, smoke it. Oh yeah.
All right, welcome back to the show, Black Focus Radio, our issues, our solutions, our voices. 855-525-5683 is the number. That's how you get in touch with me if you'd like to join the show. I want to take a little time this segment to talk about a poster or someone who posted on one of the things that I posted on Facebook. And it was related to Charlie Kirk. And this guy went on and on about we were lying on Charlie Kirk and Charlie Kirk was not a racist. Okay? He wasn't a racist. So, I want to read what he said. His name is Arthur Daniels Jr. First of all, it's very disrespectful and despicable for you to post something like this after a good Christian man was assassinated for essentially standing up for his faith. No, he wasn't standing up for his faith. And by the way, what Christianity was he representing? When you don't want to feed the poor, when you don't want to feed the homeless. What Christian faith was he representing? I continue. If you had done the most basic credible research, you would know that Kirk was no racist and no bigot. Well, we know he was a racist and a bigot. And by the way, if you've ever listened to this show, you would know that I do my research. And I didn't have to look far to find out what Charlie Kirk was all about. In fact, I've been listening to this guy for quite some time. Okay? And yes, he was a racist and he was a bigot. But it's all too easy to just ignorantly label someone falsely rather than to do actual research to know the truth. Now, by now, you're probably saying, clearly, this guy didn't do any research. Second, if anything, Kirk was guilty of blindly and ignorantly accepting false claims about Dr. King, which I called him out on publicly. But many people can be blind and ignorant as your post clearly indicates. I'm reading his stuff. I'm sorry. Okay. So let me stop right there. So here's this man calling Charlie Kirk out on some of the racist things that he said about Dr. King. But he's not racist. Y'all get this, right? I'm going to give you the slapper here in just a moment. And finally, beyond that, I can find no credible evidence of your financial claims about Charlie Kirk. Nothing you posted justifies, even if it were true, your disrespect of a man who was murdered for no good reason. His wife and now widow and his children are fatherless. And you post this nonsense. That was his post. Now, this post was in relation to a post that I made about how Charlie Kirk was a dropout in college. He made millions of dollars when he got hooked up with a right-winger who donated millions of dollars to the Republican Party. Here's what my initial response was. This is what I told him. I thought about not responding to this idiocy because I only debate my equals. Your post tells me all I need to know. Firstly, let me unequivocally state that Charlie Kirk was a bigot, racist, and a white supremacist. To fix your mind to suggest that he is a Christian provides proof just how warped your mind really is. I reviewed your profile, and did you know that Charlie the bigot, racist, and white supremacist would not approve of your miscegenation? Let me read that again. I reviewed your profile, and did you know that Charlie the bigot, racist, and white supremacist would not approve of your miscegenation? You know what miscegenation is, right? That's the mixing of the races. And by the way, Mr. Daniels, he's married to a white woman. Now, let me be clear. Charlie Kirk and his ilk don't like black men married to white women. They like black women married to white men because that white man can dominate them. But they don't want that lily white girl giving it up to that big black brute. That's what Birth of a Nation was all about. So here is a black man married to a white woman defending a racist. That very racist would have rather have him tarred and feathered or castrated, because that's what they did to black men who slept with white women back in the day. But he's defending this guy. Wow. This boggled my mind. Let me continue what I wrote to him. Secondly, your white devil prince was not only blind about Dr. King, but any and everything black, including you. The irony is you carrying water for a bigot who stated he disagreed with the 1964 civil rights legislation. Your buddy would have you sitting on the back of the bus. Lastly, he was an opportunistic white supremacist who profited from hate. Fred Hampton, Malcolm X, Martin King, Medgar Evers, all were murdered and they had wives and children. They were non-violently fighting for equality while your white supremacist buddy was profiting from hate. Don't fret. I'm sure Charlie is down there looking up at us. Now that was my response. He responded back. You claim all you want without any proof or evidence that Mr. Kirk was a bigot, racist, and white supremacist all day, but saying it doesn't prove it. See, this guy has not listened to Charlie Kirk, or he's got white tears in his ears that he don't want to believe because he's married to a white woman that Charlie Kirk is a racist. You really had the unmitigated gall to talk about only debating your equals as if I were not that and more. When did you learn biblical, Hebrew, or Greek? When did you get an award for excellence in biblical Hebrew? But I digress. Now, you don't want to, I'm not going to go there as relates to the Bible because you don't want none of that with me. Okay? You don't want that with me, brother. I'm not the one, okay? You go debate your biblical theology with someone else that believes what you believe, because I'm not the one, because I would have you crazy. But I continue. This has been so great. The real warped mind is the one that seeks to make a man out to be something he was not, based on mostly out of context quotes. But I guess context doesn't matter when you are determined against all contrary evidence that a person is racist and so forth. You know, here's what I got out of this post, part of it. Here was a guy who was trying to be intellectual, equal to me, and clearly wasn't, but I digress. I gotta continue. Since you seem to go by the old saying, don't confuse me with the facts, my mind is already made up, I will not bother to post anything to help you understand that you are going by misinformation and disinformation about Charlie Kirk. Your mind is made up and no facts will change it. So be it. But don't pretend you are about truth, because that mindset is not even close to being about truth. The whole truth, not the distorted nonsense you posted. Excuse me. Oh, God. He goes after another poster that was on the wall as well that was, and by the way, that poster was my former sister-in-law. And by the way, she's white. Hello. And I posted, bro, people are laughing at you. And he just kept going and going and going. He says, people can laugh all day. I'm laughing at how ignorant and stupid people can be when they have an agenda and a closed mind. Let me just say something. I do have an agenda. That agenda is black freedom. That agenda is black equality. I don't have any other agenda. Don't want any other agenda. I want my granddaughter to be able to grow up in a free society devoid of racism, bigotry, and hate. That's what I stand for. And I'm going to call out anyone who thinks that they are okay to propagate racism, bigotry, and hatred. That's what Charlie Kirk was. But here is a guy, and there are a whole lot of black folks out there like this guy, who think that Charlie Kirk was some type of God. He was some type of martyr. And how dare I speak truth to power? Because what is he reading? Oh, maybe he's been sucking up Fox News. That's gotta be it. That's gotta be. How is it that you don't know? And if I post his exact words and you say that I'm taking them out of context. If I post his entire speech, you say I'm taking it out of context. Charlie Kirk didn't even know that Egypt was in Africa and Africans built the pyramids. I was not taking it out of context. Those are his words. You can go out and look at the video. Brother, what is wrong with you and those like you? Clarence Thomas, Byron Donalds. I can go on and on about these Negroes who are doing nothing more than profiting off of white misery, white complaints, white, whatever they're calling it now, white grievance. Charlie Kirk talked about the Great Replacement Theory. Do y'all know what the Great Replacement Theory is? They think that they are being replaced. Remember in the first term of Donald Trump, what were they trying to do? They had a march in Charlotte, and the marchers were saying, Jews will not replace us. You will not replace us. These are white men. Who's trying to replace you? I'm certainly not. I'm just simply trying to make a living. I just want to be treated equal. That has been the mantra for black people for the longest. We have never said, hey, I want to be put over white people. We just want to be treated equal. That's all I want. I want to know that when I go and apply for a job and I have the same qualifications as the white guy, that I'm not going to be judged based on my skin color, but based on what I can do for you. But this ignorant fool of a black man is supporting a man who didn't even want him marrying the woman that he's married to. They will not replace us. You've replaced a white man by marrying a white woman. And they are upset because guess what? Guess what? You're going to have brown little children. And you can say all you want that they'll be treated equal and they're going to grow up in an equal society, then you're lying to them, and you know you are. Mr. Daniels, there is nothing that you can say to me that suggests that you are my intellectual equal because of the ignorance that you've posted. By the way, Mr. Daniels, whenever you're ready to come on Black Focus Radio, you're more than welcome. I will give you the floor. Just let me know. We'll take the top of the hour break. Back in a moment. We got more stuff coming up. It's called Black Focus Radio. Our issues, our solutions, our voices. On JoynetRadio.com.
Barbecue season is here, and you're still using that 99-cent goop full of chemical derivatives and high fructose corn syrup for your sauce? Stop, please. Get to ribrub.com now and save your next cookout with an array of all-natural rubs and sauces. Start with the Dynamic Rib Dust for seasoning and the Dynamic Rib Rub for flavor, and top off your grilled or smoked masterpiece with Dynamic Rib Juice. Don't forget the Dynamic Pepper Juice for just the right kick for those chicken wings. One other thing, you've got to try the delectably delicious Dynamic Rib Nuts. Can't decide? Order a Dynamic gift box and satisfy all of your cravings. Come on, give me your hand and let me take you to barbecue land at ribrub.com. That's RIBBRUBB.com, and we'll show you how to bake it, grill it, smoke it. Oh yeah.
Hi, I'm David W. Coleman, host of Black Focus Radio and the weekly sports magazine. We here at joinedradio.com would like to thank you for all the love and support you've given us. Our goal is to keep you inspired and informed daily with quality programming from gospel music, news, talk, and sports. Log on to joinedradio.com for the program lineup, and while there, be sure to make a donation. Then download our app and carry us anywhere in the world. Please continue to spread the word about joinedradio.com. And if you are an entrepreneur or have an upcoming event or you'd like to start a show, let the professional writers and producers here at joinedradio.com help you get the word out. Call me at 615-554-0568 for more details. In the meantime, stay informed and inspired daily right here on joinedradio.com.
The views and opinions expressed today on Black Focus Radio are not the views and opinions of the station, its management, or its advertisers. Now, let's get ready to focus on our issues, our solutions, using our voices on Black Focus Radio.
Welcome to Black Focus, the show designed with our community in mind, where we focus on our issues, developing our solutions, using our voices. Central Arkansas, surrounding areas, and the nation. Get ready. Black Focus starts right now. Phone lines open at 855-525-5683. So here's your host, David W. Coleman.
Welcome back to Black Focus Radio, the second hour of the show. 855-525-5683 is the number. That's how you get in touch with me. If you'd like to join the show, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram, and support our sponsors, joinedradio.com and ribrub.com. Okay, let's do that. And by the way, join me for my one-man crusade to get rid of the N-word. Y'all know what I like to say. Just don't say it, okay? It ain't that hard. Let's start uplifting our people. Let's start showing the world that we are more than what white slave owners told us we were. And by the way, you might want to go out and look up the origin of that word. I'm just saying. You know, I was going through my wall, and I post a lot of stuff on my wall that makes you... that I use as a notepad because of things that I want to talk about on the show. There are some things I never get to, but I posted a quote from Frederick Douglass. And let me just read it to you. And later on, I'm going to read you the quote from Theodore Roosevelt. Once you learn to read, you will be forever free. You remember back in grade school, when you get the report cards and they would ask you to, and one of them reading, they broke it down, math, English, reading, a lot of different categories. And one of the things on the reading was reading with comprehension. Do you know what that means? If you don't know what it means, then you probably didn't read very well back in elementary school. I always got A's or the check mark. Back then they would just early on in elementary school they would just give you check marks. And what that means is that when you read something, do you understand what you read? See, this is what that quote means to me. Because when I started doing my research about 1987, when I decided that I wanted to be, what did I want to be, Christian or Muslim? I decided I'm not going to take your word for it. I'm going to do my research. And you know what? In doing all of that research, it really freed my mind. Because there were things that I read that I had been taught previously that I thought, oh, this is not what I was taught. But the point is that I freed my mind, and I am a free black man more so than any time in my lifetime, because I just didn't read then. I continue to read. I've got a book coming now called Black AF. I can't wait to get it. A lot of stuff I've heard about this book, I've seen it. I can't wait to get it. I'm always reading something. Frederick Douglass said, once you learn to read, you will be forever free. That gentleman that I talked about last hour, he hadn't learned to read. Many of you have not learned to read. Many of you would rather deal with social media than to read a book. That's not a good thing. Not at all. This segment, I want to talk a little bit about Trey Reed. And Trey Reed was a young black man. Well, let me get the story and I'll read it to you. Because all while Charlie Kirk was being memorialized, the issue with Trey Reed was playing out. Here's a new update on Trey Reed, a black college student found hanging on his college campus. Now, let me read the story and then I'll comment. While the police originally ruled the 21-year-old's tragic death a suicide, there's been some major cracks in their story. This is why I'm bringing this up. Reed's family say that the police didn't even bother to tell them about their son's death before telling the media, and that the police told them that Reed's body was found in his dorm room when he was actually found hanging from a damn tree. Now, wait a minute. I said I'm going to read the whole story. Let me read the story, because I'll go off on a tangent. The Grenada County Sheriff's Department arrived at Trey's family's home about 9:15 and informed the family that Trey was found dead in his dorm room, in his bed. The family is now demanding an independent autopsy and a full investigation. If this young man was on the campus, of Delta State University with all these cameras and all the modern technology, from the moment he left his dorm room and entered the campus, there should be surveillance of all of his actions, according to Vanessa J. Jones, the family attorney. That's what we want. Bring the surveillance, bring the cameras, and so that we'll know exactly what happened. We're not here to finger point yet, but we will have answers. The possible constitutional violations of releasing Trey's name to the media immediately after it happened, we'll get to that. But for now, the family is asking for answers. The family is stunned at the allegations that Trey Reed had killed himself. When I talked to him, he's always told me he had a plan for his life and many things he wanted. He wanted to go to college, according to Jerry Reed, his father. He wanted to be a truck driver because that's what I was for nearly 30 years, and that's what he wanted to be. Congressman Benny Thompson has called for a federal investigation into Reed's death. It's always a tragedy when a young life is cut short. We must leave no stone unturned in the search for answers. While the details of this case are still emerging, we cannot ignore Mississippi's painful history of lynching and racial violence against African Americans. My deepest condolences and prayers are with Trey's family during this difficult time. It should be noted that just days ago, MAGA rapper Forgatio Blow and JJ Lawhorn released the song Good vs. Evil. MAGA rappers, okay, in which they explicitly called for lynchings. The chorus goes, get a big tall tree with a short piece of rope to hang them high at sundown and leave them swinging so folks all know you don't mess around in our town. Okay. By the way, just a historical note on Mississippi. Mississippi is notorious for being a hotbed of lynchings in the post-Civil War days. From 1877 to 1950, Mississippi ranked first in nearly every category. Most lynchings 581. Most multiple lynchings per capita. Most female victims. Most victims taken from police custody. Most lynchings without arrest or conviction of mob leaders. And most public support for vigilantism. Since 2000, at least 8 black men have been lynched in Mississippi. We need to get to the bottom of this man's heartbreaking death immediately. Now, let me just go back and footnote a couple of things in this article. Okay? Because you wonder why black people have problems with police? You wonder? Well, there's a reason why. That's because you heard them, what does it say? Most lynchings without arrest or convictions of mob leaders. Yeah, we got a problem. And while this was happening, this story didn't make national news until Friday. This was floating around social media for at least 4 days before it finally made national news. Because, see, the national news don't give a damn about black boys or black people dying. We've proven that beyond a shadow of a doubt. The police don't give a damn. But see, here's what I have a problem with. If it is true what they're saying, the police lied. Why would the police lie about finding this man hanging from a tree? Why would they tell the parents that Trey Reed was found in his bedroom? Why would they lie like that? Y'all understand what I'm saying here? This makes no sense whatsoever. They said the boy was found dead in the dorm in his bed when he was actually hanging from a tree. That just boggles my mind. You see, these are the types of things that Colin Kaepernick thought about. Oh, by the way, they suspended Colin Kaepernick. They ran him out of the league. But you know, last Sunday, the NFL, at least many of the teams, decided that they were going to have a moment of silence for Charlie Kirk. I wonder what the black people were thinking. You know, and since we're talking about Charlie, let me read the 7-Day Adventist. Okay? As a Christian leader, and by the way, this is by Kristen Josiah, the president of the Central States Conference of the 7-Day Adventist. He says, as a Christian leader, I unequivocally condemn murder, hate speech, racism, sexism, and all other forms of discrimination. I promote unity, love, justice, and humility. As a conference leadership team, we fully support and agree with the statement because it is biblical and spiritual. He has shown you, oh man, what is good. And what does the Lord require of you? But to justify, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with your God. The statement is biblical because Paul declares there is neither Jew nor Greek. There is neither slave or free. There is neither male or female, for you all are one in Christ Jesus. Any person or entity that does not teach or practice that principle and intentionally speaks to divide God's children instead of uniting God's children are not true representatives of what it means to be Christian. Hello? That was their response. That was a white organization. But the NFL decided that they were going to issue and require everybody to stand up because Charlie Kirk was killed. Hello? That's what the NFL did. The question I have, and see, I'm headed to something here that I want to make sure y'all understand, is that at some point, black people are going to have to stand up. They keep pissing on your leg and telling you it's raining. They keep spitting in your face and telling you that's sprinkling. What? When are y'all gonna learn here? They all decided that they were going to change this man's history. ABC fired Jimmy Kimmel. CBS fired Stephen Colbert. ABC fired Kelly Moran. NBC fired, I can't think of Dowd's first name. Hello? But the NFL, and see what I've been saying, at some point, black people, particularly our young people, are going to have to make a stand. And that means what I would love for every black person to do is simply pick a day and just walk off your job. Don't work. That means football. That means basketball, whatever the case may be, because see, the NFL proved to you, well, they proved to me 5 years ago the way they did to Colin Kaepernick. I didn't need any more answers. I already knew. Look, I grew up in Little Rock, Arkansas. I remember Jerry Jones, the pictures and the stories about Jerry Jones, how he tried to keep North Little Rock High from being integrated by black students. And you remember Stephen A. Smith tried to give him a pass. Oh, that was over, Come on, man. So I'm not surprised about Jerry Jones. I'm not surprised about any of those others. Look, all you got to do is go look at who they're donating who they're donating money to in Congress. It's majority Republicans. Hello? It's majority Republicans. So at some point, we are going to have to decide, do we want to continue to contribute to our own demise? And I know many of you all out there now, particularly with the NIL, you're making millions of dollars. You're making dollars that you weren't making. I know we weren't making that money when we were back in college. You're making this money. But it's blood money. It's devil money. It's the same as drug profits. That's devil money. But we've allowed our morals as black. Look, black people used to be so moral that, look, we knew that there are certain things that black people didn't do. We wouldn't give drugs to a minor. We wouldn't sexually assault a minor if we knew that person was a minor. That was something that they did. That's something we didn't do. But look at us now. We're worshiping the gods of a beaten enemy. Since we're talking so much about religion and how holy Charlie Kirk was, let's talk about what I mean about worshiping the gods of a beaten enemy. Because it's important for us to understand that we know what our values are. We know the story of Exodus, where the children of Israel left Pharaoh and wandered in the desert for 40 years. We know that story. We all have heard the story. But once they got away from Pharaoh, all of the pain and suffering that they had to go through, they were freed by Moses and God, and they went out into the wilderness. The army of Pharaoh was drowned in the sea parted, and all of these miracles that their God had shown them, they still lost faith. Moses went up on the mount to talk to God. And while Moses was on the mount, they decided that, oh, that God isn't real, regardless of what they had been through. The story goes that they decided to go around and get the gold from everybody they could so that they could build a golden calf. And they did. And when Moses came down from the mount and he saw them, and he said, if you will not live by God's word, you will die by them. And many of those people who were worshiping the golden calf died that day, according to the Bible. I'm not trying to preach to you because I'm not a preacher. I'm trying to make a point. You know, they died because you know where the golden calf came from? That was the symbolism and the idolatry that Pharaoh worshipped. So even after all the years of slavery and the march through the wilderness, they decided that they were going to worship a golden calf. And many of them died that day. So here's my point. You see, because many people believe that the story in the Bible is analogous to black people in America. 400 years of bondage, all the hell and frustration that we went through black codes and Jim Crow and discrimination. And we stayed true to our gods. But then when we got free, we started to worship the gods of white people. And I'm not talking about the Bible. Because, see, the gods of white people is materialism, is money, it's greed. And once we begin to worship greed, once we begin to worship money, we started falling into the same traps that they were in. We wanted to be like them. Look at our children today. Look at our neighborhoods today. You see, I grew up in a neighborhood where the neighbor across the street looked out for me and I looked out for their children. That doesn't happen anymore. So here we are worshiping the gods of a beaten enemy and it's destroying us. We had beaten them. We had been through the 40s, the 50s, the 60s, the 70s. We had beaten them. And here we are today worshiping the same God. I ask you, black man, when are you going to develop the conscience of convictions of your ancestors? Because it is going to be needed. It may not be needed today, but it's going to be needed. Look around you. Are you paying attention? I don't think you are. And on that note, we'll take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about this Colin Kaepernick thing because I'm not done. I'm not done. Back in a moment, it's Black Focus Radio. Our issues, our solutions, our voices on joinnedradio.com.
99-cent goop full of chemical derivatives and high fructose corn syrup for your sauce? Stop, please. Get to ribrub.com now and save your next cookout with an array of all natural rubs and sauces. Start with the Dynamic Rib Dust for seasoning and the Dynamic Rib Rub for flavor, and top off your grilled or smoked masterpiece with Dynamic Rib Juice. Don't forget the Dynamic Pepper Juice for just the right kick for those chicken wings. One other thing, you've got to try the delectably delicious Dynamic Rib Nuts. Can't decide? Order a Dynamic gift box and satisfy all of your cravings. Come on, give me your hand and let me take you to barbecue land at ribrub.com. That's RIBBRUBB.com, and we'll show you how to bake it, grill it, smoke it. Oh yeah.
Dynamic Dave for JoinedRadio.com. I'm inviting all small businesses to contact me at 855-525-5683 and let Joined Radio set up an advertising package specifically designed with your business in mind. This is a great opportunity for small businesses to get your products on the air. Do you want to get the word out about a new business? Joined Radio is for you. Do you want to advertise your event or social gathering? Joined Radio is for you. Do you preach or teach? Do it right here on JoinedRadio.com. Call me, Dynamic Dave, at 855-525-5683 or go to JoinedRadio.com and review our great lineup of shows. Let's help each other and let's get your products in the hands of consumers across the country. Call me, Dynamic Dave, at JoinedRadio.com at 855-525-5683. I'll talk to you soon.
Coleman's Dynamic Products would like to thank you for all the support you've given us over the years. Our growth could not have happened without your purchases and word of mouth to your friends and family. That says you believe and trust us to provide Coleman's Dynamic Products with no fillers and all natural ingredients. We began with our flagship product, Rib Rub, and now it has expanded into snacks, seasonings, salts, rib juice, and pepper juice. We could not have done it without you. I'm David W. Coleman, founder and president, and I want to personally thank you for the encouraging words and support. Coleman's Dynamic Products will continue to be the best dry marinades, seasonings, and sauces you've ever put in your mouth. That's ribrub.com, RIBBRUBB. And you know what we like to say, bake it, grill it, smoke it. Oh, yeah.
Pigskin, check. Round ball, check. Hard ball, check. Hockey puck, check. Burning rubber, check. We got it all on the weekly sports page with David Coleman. What else do you need? Did I say food? Can't have sports without food. What kind of show is this again?
A sports show.
Oh, okay. Pass me those rib nuts.
Yeah, we do have it all and a whole lot more with me, Dynamic David Coleman, on the weekly sports magazine.
Welcome back to Black Focus Radio. Our issues, our solutions, our joy, our voices. 855-525-5683 is the number. That's how you get in touch with me if you'd like to join the show. You can also hit me up on YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. So we're talking about this whole show today is about the First Amendment, Charlie Kirk, what's said, what isn't said. And last segment, I was talking a little bit about Colin Kaepernick. Colin Kaepernick was fighting for equality. Colin Kaepernick was tired of black males being shot dead by white cops. Cops being the judge, jury, and executioner. By the way, white people commit as many crimes or more than black people. You rarely hear of a white man being shot dead by a white cop. In fact, I don't recall any time a black man has shot a white man dead. I just don't. This is what Colin Kaepernick was fighting for, but the NFL barred him. They destroyed his career. By the way, Colin Kaepernick is paying for the funeral and the autopsy for Trey Reed. I want to know where all the black folks are. I want to know why all these black talk show hosts, and I know you're scared because if you bring it up, they're going to fire you. But you know, if you had if we were together, when you brought it up, they couldn't fire you because they would catch hell. ABC is catching hell right now. People are canceling their subscriptions to Hulu. They're canceling their subscriptions to Disney Plus. The question is, where did you stand, black talk show host, black media person, black athlete? It's important for you to know because now we've got a Charlie Kirk day. Woohoo! What you gonna say? Are y'all gonna play some of Charlie Kirk's words? Or are y'all gonna cut them? Are y'all gonna post some of Charlie Kirk's words? Are y'all gonna do that? By the way, y'all do realize that Democrats voted for Charlie Kirk Day. Hello? So what y'all need to do right now Let's see. Let me just read part of this article for you. Dozens of Democrats, and by the way, this is from Newsweek, dozens of Democrats decided not to join the Republicans in approving a resolution honoring, and they say, conservative activist Charlie Kirk. He wasn't a conservative activist. He was a white supremacist. You know, here's what they try to do. They try to dress it up. When they're white supremacists, they say conservative activists. Okay? He wasn't a conservative activist. He was a white supremacist who was assassinated. Okay? The House of Representatives adopted the resolution which honors Kirk's life and legacy and condemns political violence. Why hadn't they condemned political violence before that? You know, Elizabeth Hortman, who was a white woman, was murdered in Minnesota, she and her husband, and the Republican Party did not do anything. Donald Trump, when they asked him about why didn't they set the flags at half-mast for Hortman and her husband, he said he didn't know anything about it, which reminds me, why is it that this president is always, when he's asked a question, he says he don't know anything about it? Who's running the damn country? I digress. Okay. I digress. Democrats struggle to balance condemnation of Kirk's murder against the memorializing of his life, with many unable to celebrate Kirk's politics. Okay. 95 Democrats backed the resolution. 38 Democrats voted present, and 58 voted against the resolution, and 22 did not vote at all. Democratic leaders told party members Thursday that they would support the resolution, but advised members to vote their conscience. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries of New York, Whip Catherine Clark of Massachusetts, and Caucus Chairman Pete Aguilar of California all supported the resolution. The Democrats' vote broke out as follows. And I'm not going to go down this whole list, but there are some interesting names on here that didn't vote for this Charlie Kirk Day. What's wrong with y'all, Democrats? What's wrong with y'all? I'm it's y'all crazy as hell. Did y'all feel some type of way? Because, see, these people don't care about political violence. They don't mind. I just told you, the person that shot Elizabeth Hortman and her husband had a hit list of about 60 names on it. All of those people were Democrats. So I can sit up here just off the top of my head and give you instances of political violence from the right. See, they're trying to rewrite history. They're trying to say, oh, well, the political right left is the ones who are creating hate speech and doing all this. You got a president who attacked 5 black women in Congress. You got a president who attacked the nominee for the president of the United States, or I should say the Democratic nominee to run for president, Kamala Harris. Attacked Michelle Obama. You got a president who said Barack Obama was an American. You got a president who said the march in Charlotte, those were good people. These were the same people who were claiming that you will not replace us. By the way, let me ask you a question. If you're so proud of who you are, why you got to wear a mask? White supremacists? Why you got to wear a mask? Oh, and by the way, if you have not seen it, January 4th, 2024, there was an NIJ research, and it tells us about domestic terrorism. You know, as I told y'all, see, I come with facts. I don't come with opinion. Things I talk about are facts. Let me just read something to you real fast. Militant, nationalistic, white supremacist, violent extremists. Oh, by the way, before we move on, wasn't Timothy McVeigh white? Wasn't the kid who shot the 4 kids in Colorado the same day that Charlie Kirk was killed was white? Wasn't the guy who shot Charlie Kirk, wasn't he white? Wasn't the person who shot up the gay nightclub, wasn't he white? What about the guy who shot up Mother Emanuel? Wasn't he white? Oh, what about the guy who shot up all the black people in the grocery store in Buffalo, New York? Wasn't he white? What about all of those people who have committed mass shootings? 98% of the people who did that, weren't they white? Militant nationalistic white supremacist violent extremism has increased in the United States. In fact, this one I'm reading from you, I hate to keep interrupting, but this was on the DOJ website before they pulled it. In fact, the number of far-right attacks continue to outpace all other types of terrorism and domestic violent extremism. Since 1990, far-right extremists have committed far more ideological motivated homicides than far-left or radical Islamic extremists, including 227 events that took more than 520 lives. Now, what have we been hearing? Oh, those damn Muslims, the Sharia law. Why aren't you talking about domestic white terrorism? In that same period, far-left extremists committed 42 ideological motivated attacks that took 78 lives. A recent threat assessment by the United States Department of Homeland Security concluded that domestic violent terrorists are an acute threat and highlighted a probability that COVID-19 pandemic-related stresses, long-standing ideological grievances related to immigration and narratives surrounding electoral fraud will continue to serve as a justification for violent actions. Hello. Over the past 20 years, the body of research that examines terrorism and domestic violent extremism has grown exponentially. Studies have looked at the similarities and differences between radicalization to violent domestic ideologies and radicalization to foreign extremist ideologies. Research has found that radicalization processes and outcomes and perhaps potential prevention and intervention points vary by group structure and crime type. In addition, research has explored promising and effective approaches for how communities can respond to radicalization and prevent future attacks. The National Institute of Justice, NIJ, has played a unique role in evolving literature on terrorism and extreme violation. NIJ has promoted the development of comprehensive terrorism databases to help inform criminal justice responses to terrorism, address the risk of terrorism to potential targets, examine the links between terrorism and other crimes, and study the organizational, instructional, and cultural dynamics of terrorism. Hello. Over the past two decades, research that seeks to undermine individual level engagement in violent extremism has grown tremendously. However, as the research field has developed, a gap has emerged between the increasingly sophisticated arguments that scholars use to explain extremism and the availability of data to test, refine, and validate theories of radicalization. Hello. Prius and Bias are designed to provide users with information on a wide range of factors that can play a role in a person's radicalization to criminal activity. These risk and protective factors can be divided in 4 domains. Okay? I'm reading from an article that was on the DOJ website that is no longer there. But again, this was a but this was prior to Trump and that person that is running the Department of Justice. Okay? I'm just going through this article. I asked the question, who are the people that are committing terrorist acts in America? Let me read this part. Entering and exiting white supremacists in the United States. An NIJ-funded research team led by RTI International examined the complex social psychological processes involved with entering, mobilizing, and exiting white supremacy in America. The researchers conducted in-depth life history interviews with 47 former members of white supremacist groups in 24 states and 2 provinces in Canada. For this project, white supremacy referred to a group that rejected essential democratic ideas, equality, and tolerance. A key organizing principle is that inherent differences between races and ethnicities position white and European ancestry above all others. These interviewed were authoritarian, anti-liberal, and militant nationalists who had a general intolerance toward people of color. They had used violence to achieve their goals and supported a race war to eradicate the world of non-white people. The study led to several key findings about entering and exiting white supremacy in the United States. Now, let me just go back to this sentence real fast. They had used violence to achieve their goals and supported a race war to eradicate the world of non-white people. Now, let me tell you something. How are y'all going to do that? This shows you their ignorance. This shows you the ignorance of white supremacy. Because you do realize that 3/4 of the world are people of color. Okay? 3/4 of the world are people of color. You can't get rid of black folks. Let me just say this again. It's basic genetics. The reason that you're stressing because of 2042 is because of basic genetics. You've done a wonderful job to try to get rid of black people, but it ain't working because of genetics. Y'all understand that, right? Because of genetics. The black gene is the dominant gene. Hello? This is basic biology. You see, if I was the only black man in this world, up until I died, if my plumbing is working properly, if I'm the only black man in this world, did you know that I could repopulate the earth with black people? Hello? That's not an opinion. That's a fact. There's a reason why when you impregnate a white woman, that baby comes out looking black. It may have light skin, but its features are going to be black. Hello? So how are you going to get rid of the world of black people when in fact this world is populated by black people? Let's take that same analogy that I just made. If you take white people, a white man, he's the only white man on this earth. Can he repopulate this earth with white people? No, he cannot, because of genetics. He doesn't have the genetic makeup to do so. Part of the reason that white people are dying off is because of that fact. Their whiteness is recessive. That's not racism. That's just biology. This is why they were saying, you will not replace us. This is the great replacement theory that I referred to earlier in the show that Charlie Kirk espoused. See, white men think they're being replaced. White men have always been in power. So it disturbs them that other people, women, minorities, well, I'm not going to say minorities because, I told y'all I believe I'm a majority. Based on what I just told you, 3/4 the people of the world are people of color. How the hell am I going to call myself a minority? I'm a majority. See, that is something that white people put in your head. I am a majority. I think like a majority. Once you start thinking like a majority, things will change in your life. It really will. Hello? Hello? Let me read a little bit more of this article before we get out of here. Okay. The study found that most people did not join white supremacist group because they are adherent to a particular ideology. Rather, a combination of background factors increases the likelihood that someone will be susceptible to recruitment messaging, for example, propaganda. Previous research has highlighted that hate or adherence to racist violence was an outcome of participation in white supremacist groups. The commitment to white supremacist groups lacked a pre-existing sense of racial grievance or hatred that motivated an individual to join the racist movement. One former member reported having no inkling of what Nazism really was, other than what you saw on TV. Hello? This is the problem here. I could go down a list and all you got to do is go out on Google. There is a list of attacks by white people. I remember Timothy McVeigh like it was yesterday. The worst terrorist attacks other than 9/11, or let me just put it this way, the worst domestic attacks were committed by white people. Remember the white boy that was out in Las Vegas who was shooting out the hotel and he shot up the country music event? There are so many. So we cannot allow them to change the subject. We cannot allow them to say that, oh, the violence is coming from the left or the violence is coming from white people. I asked the question earlier in the show. How is it that a white boy shoots your white Jesus and you attack HBCUs? That's all you need to know about white people and their racism. That's all you need to know. Black people had nothing to do with Charlie Kirk being murdered, and you decided you're going to call in bomb threats to HBCUs. Even before Robinson was caught, they were already ready to start trying to kill black folks. Y'all get this, right? You see, those people who have never been in war, they think there's some glory to it. No, I've never been in the military and I've never been in war. But here's one thing I know based on my research, sans propaganda, that war is ugly. War is nasty. All we have to do is look what's going on in Gaza today or any other war-torn country. People are not eating. People are not sleeping. People are being raped. People are being killed. Children are being forced to go into armies. Who would want war? These people would rather have a civil war than to sit down and say, hey, look, we the minorities, although we've been told that we're the majority, we understand the world view and we are the minorities. How can we work together to make a better America? You see, have they done that? I've often wondered, if it wasn't for, even if they had slavery and they came to some thought that, slavery is wrong, let's end this and let's make sure that we do right by these ex-slaves. I wonder what this country would be like. Think about it. This country has been great for almost 250 years. With all of the racism and the bigotry, the Jim Crow, the murders, the bloody Sundays, the bloody summers, the red summers. What would this country really be like if, in fact, white people simply would have said, hey, we were wrong. The same thing that they're trying to get the left to say, oh, we're wrong about making that comment. They refuse to accept what would this country really be like. This country, I can't imagine how great it would be. What if it really lived up to the writings on the Statue of Liberty that says, give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free, your wretched refuse of your teeming shores. Send me your homeless, tempest tossed. I place my lamp beside the golden door. What would have happened? Where would this country be? That's a good question. We'll take our last break. It's what we must do. You're listening to Black Focus Radio. Our issues, our solutions, our voices on joinetradio.com.
Barbecue season is here, and you're still using that 99-cent goop full of chemical derivatives and high fructose corn syrup for your sauce? Stop, please. Get to ribrub.com now and save your next cookout with an array of all-natural rubs and sauces. Start with the Dynamic Rib Dust for seasoning and the Dynamic Rib Rub for flavor, and top off your grilled or smoked masterpiece with Dynamic Rib Juice. Don't forget the Dynamic Pepper Juice for just the right kick for those chicken wings. One other thing, you've got to try the delectably delicious Dynamic Rib Nuts. Can't decide? Order a Dynamic gift box and satisfy all of your cravings. Come on, give me your hand and let me take you to barbecue land at ribrub.com. That's RIBBRUBB.com, and we'll show you how to bake it, grill it, smoke it. Oh yeah.
Welcome back to Black Focus Radio. Our issues, our solutions, our voices. 855-525-5683 is the number. That's how you get in touch with me if you'd like to join the show. A lot of stuff to talk about today. Of course, we're at the last segment of the show. It's called What We Must Do. Before I go any further, I want to read this quote by Theodore Roosevelt. I remember studying Theodore Roosevelt, and he was probably during that time period, although he had some racist tendencies, based on what he stood for, was probably one of my favorite. Now, he was crooked. There was scandal. But I like Teddy Roosevelt. He walked softly and carried a big stick, as they used to say. Here's this quote. To announce that there must be no criticism of the president, or that we are to stand by the president, right or wrong, is not only unpatriotic and servile, but is morally treasonable to the American public. That's Theodore Roosevelt. You see, we must be standing for right, is what we must do as a black community. You see, during the 60s, we stood for right. All of those organizations who came together under one umbrella to fight for one cause, and that was equality. We must stand for right. And we must also make sure that our children are standing for right. And we must also start preparing, because based on what we're seeing in our Congress, in the White House, in the Supreme Court, that we may have a long road to hoe. Okay? So we need to start educating one another. While y'all are busy going out to clubs and kicking it, while y'all busy renting these Airbnbs, what you should be doing, that taking some time out with your friends and talking. You see, that's what they did back in the 60s. They had their meetings in their homes. They had their meetings in their houses. You know, Daisy Bates and all of those, Dr. King and, Aretha Franklin used to tell the story that when Dr. King and many of the civil rights fighters came to Detroit, they stayed at her home. She cooked dinner for them. That's what we got to do here. Because I don't see things changing anytime soon. I hope I'm wrong. But see, remember the quote that I read earlier? Remember, let me go back and read it. But what Frederick Douglass said? Once you learn to read, you will be forever free. And see, once you learn to read, you begin to study. You begin to understand things. And based on what I know, based on what I've read, I'm concerned. I don't think white people are going to give in. They've had 250 years to say we made a mistake. Forget about reparations, which are owed, by the way. At what point will this nation apologize to black people for slavery? They never have, and as far as we know, they never will. As a matter of fact, we had a black president who was so afraid to apologize for racism and slavery. Even when he was a lame duck, he had an opportunity to come out and address the nation. As a black man, this is what we ought to do about what happened to black people years ago. If nothing else, we need to initiate an official apology. Black president didn't do that. So we as black people need to understand that we are still at war. And I don't mean to use that term lightly, but there are forces out there who don't want us to be our best self. And we can sit around and fall prey to their propaganda, their rap music, their gangster rap, or we can stand up and start supporting one another the way we need supported. That means with your dollars. That I told you earlier in the show that white businesses are going after the radio station that this show is on. You all should flood that station with your advertising dollars. Even if you don't advertise, make a donation to joinetradio.com. We need to have grocery stores in black communities. I drive all over Baltimore all week long into black neighborhoods. There are no black grocery stores. They have drugstores. We need to teach our people to defend themselves. We need to teach our people that the words will not hurt us, but we need to listen to those words to prepare our people that if the day comes where we have to defend ourselves, then we need to be able to do that. I hate to be sitting here saying that today, but based on what I've seen, based on what I know, based on what I've researched, we are in for a tough road going forward. Unless there is a change. And right now, with our government being ran by white supremacists, by the Heritage Foundation, by Project 2025, we haven't even went a year with Trump being in the White House. And look what has happened. Unless natural situations present consequences that we have no control over, we are in for a long, long fight. One other thing before I go. Our only hope is November 2026. If you are not talking to your people, if you're not talking to your congregation, and regardless of what your political swaying or political leaning may be, we have to get these people out of the White House. We have to get these people out of the Senate. We have to get these people out of the House of Representatives. We can't do much about the Supreme Court, but they need to go. And it doesn't matter if you're Republican, Democrat. If you believe in this democracy, if you believe that all men are created equal, if you believe in the First Amendment that I spent so much time on this show, that every one of those enablers for the pedophile in chief, the 34 count convicted felon, the adjudicated sexual assaulter, we've got to get him out of the office. And the only way to do that is a vote. Don't allow anyone else to tell you your vote doesn't matter, because we see it playing out in plain view that because you didn't vote, look what it has wrought. And on that note, that is what we must do. I hope you enjoyed the show. We're on every Monday. New show every Monday, noon to 2 p.m. on joinetradio.com. We love you, JC Love. Hang tight, brother. If push come to shove and you got to do what you got to do, I respect you. You know I do. Let me read this quote one more time before I go. From Teddy Roosevelt. To announce that there must be no criticism of the president, or that we stand by the president right or wrong, is not only unpatriotic and servile, but is morally treasonable to the American public. Y'all have a great day, and thanks for listening to Black Focus Radio. Our issues, our solutions, our voices on joinetradio.com.
You've been listening to Black Focus, where we discuss our issues with our solutions and our voices. Join us every weekday afternoon at 1 p.m. on joinetradio.com.